Hello, Notre Dame football fans. It's time for final thoughts with our resident coach, Tim Hyde of blueandgold.com. I'm Greg Lackey. Please hit like on this video, by the way, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're here to give some thoughts on the upcoming game against Georgia Tech. Notre Dame hosts the Yellow Jackets at 2:30 Eastern on Saturday inside Notre Dame Stadium. Coach, you've had some time to look over the Virginia game, and you came away more impressed with Logan Diggs, and he is just progressing upwards in terms of his production. 9 rushes for 64 yards against Virginia. He had 8 for 59 against Navy. So last 2 games, averaging more than 7 yards per rush. And he just looks super natural doing it. He's just a freshman.
Yes, and that's going back to, when we were talking about him, obviously from the last few weeks, his, evolution, his, the way he's evolving. You go back and rewatch his high school film, and and you get in the mode here of the season. Sometimes it's good to go watch and see what they did back then. And believe it or not, Logan Diggs is doing the exact same thing for Notre Dame that he did down. I mean, look at this, down in Louisiana. You go back and rewatch his senior highlight film. A lot of the pausing, a lot of the cut jumps, some really good stuff that he did then, and he's doing it now at obviously a higher level. The key is Coach Taylor. Coach Taylor has him for 2 hours a day. I mean, just think it, 2 hours a day, and he's just fine tuning all of these skills. But I would tell everyone, go back and rewatch his film, because what we're seeing is a lot of what he did in the high school years. Physical, his legs have gotten bigger and stronger. And the other thing is, a lot of people are talking about out there in Notre Dame, the fans and that, like, oh, why wasn't he playing earlier? He didn't show up to Notre Dame till August.
Right.
Let's remember that he did not have a spring ball, which so many people did. Like this cut right there, the way he pauses and cuts back is unbelievable. He has a natural instinct to find holes. And you know what? It probably took him a while, August, a little September, and next thing you know, Chris Tyree gets hurt. Chris Tyree's been in the program for 2 years. It's Logan Diggs' shot, and he has just been playing his tail off ever since the Virginia Tech game.
You're an offensive line guy. Notre Dame ran for 249 yards last week against Virginia. They didn't give up any sacks and just 3 tackles for loss. Seems to be continued progression there. What are your thoughts?
Yes, they just keep getting better. They're obviously not playing monsters of the midway. I think
Yeah.
we all know that as we're watching film of the opponent's defenses that they're playing. So that does come into it, but at the same time, they are getting better. They're blocking the guys that they need to. They're playing with an attitude and intensity. They're getting more pancakes, and it's not like they're playing 1AA teams. They're playing ACC opponents, and USC, obviously their arch rival, who they went and ran on as well. So they are getting better. It is obviously a continuation going. I keep going back to the halftime of Cincinnati. Alt comes in, second series. Christophic comes in for Madden. Same thing in Va Tech. Christophic, Alt gets his first start, and they're just getting better. They're out there a ton. In the yards. The other thing is when you watch them, Notre Dame is a heavy 11 personnel team. So, they do some 11 when they flex Mare out, and it's basically a form of trips. But when they're in 12, when they're in tight end with a wing, Virginia played 9-man front, and they still were able to get some yards. So, whenever they go 12, teams have been running a lot of what basically quarters where their safeties are going to insert and play the run, and that's why Coach Reese, kudos to Coach Reese, he called 2 reverses in the game, and you got over 60 yards on 2 runs right there, which why were those called? Because Virginia was popping hard on the inside run, and they got out there on the perimeter. And real quick on one of the runs was Joe Alt. Go back and you see Alt is sprinting down the sideline, looking like Emil Wagner's film a week ago. We were talking about that on his commit. So it's a great one on the reverse. He's blocking, he seals the wheel backer, and next thing you know, he's going down the left sideline looking for another guy to block. So the O-line's playing with a little bit, obviously much more fire, which comes from confidence. And just real quick, going back, rewatching some of the early film, I think the biggest thing was they were getting to the second level too quick. And I think that's a progression of this line along with these running backs of staying on the blocks a little longer, scooping to the second level. Once you're solidified that double team with your buddy next to you, and it comes with the running backs. Look at Kyron Williams and obviously Logan Diggs are playing off of these offensive linemen, and that's been a progression basically since game one.
Yeah, I want to touch real quick upon Kyron Williams. I mean,
Mm.
he seems to be able to get yards even against those 9-man fronts. I mean, just some incredible 4 or 5 yard type runs that you see from him when it looks like there's going to be a loss of 2. But he did not make the Doak Walker semifinal list. Brian Kelly was pretty hacked off about that today in his presser. But what do you think about that?
Well, number one is, people want to talk about when you see yards, everyone wants to put it all on the O lineman. Well, I've coached O linemen a long time. I got a lot of guys that have played Division I football. O line's 5 guys, so they're assigned to block 5 guys, and then you got your tight ends, your backs, on and on and on. And the running back's job is not to get tackled. People need to realize this.
Yeah.
So if they're getting hit wherever they are, it's usually a free hitter, which that's why you're getting these 8-man fronts when Notre Dame plays 11 and 9-man when they're in 12. And those are free hitters. The running backs are making great moves, getting off blocks, and they're winning the one-on-one play. But Coach Kelly, bless his heart, because he wanted to say a heck of a lot more.
Yeah.
That's why he mentioned Quentin Nelson. To this day, has there ever been a tally of how did he not win that award in 2017? Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure they feel bad about it now. I mean, the guy became the best interior offensive lineman in professional football in like 2 weeks.
I'll never forget that award show. Same thing with, you had Julian Love, who's got, 30 pass breakups, and he doesn't win the Thorpe, and no one's completing passes on him. So, yeah, he's had his, Notre Dame hasn't had some award winners, which has been interesting. But just not even award winner to be a top 10?
Yeah.
So you're saying Kyron Williams, and Coach Kelly said it perfectly, even going back a pinch to last year. How do you not take what this young man's done for Notre Dame the last 2 years, and he's not one of the 10 best running backs in America? No, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, if you can visit our YouTube channel and see in our recent uploads our 3 minutes of video we get from Brian Kelly's weekly pressers the Thursday when we open with his answer to the question about Kyron Williams not making that semifinalist. And to your point, Tim, he was he was holding back basically.
Yes.
And to his credit, I think he's right. Senior day coming up against Georgia Tech, the last opportunity to play presumably for a bunch of guys. And Notre Dame has 7 captains this year. Not all of them are seniors. There's Kurt Heinisch, Avery Davis, who's out for the year, Jared Patterson, Kyron Williams, Myron Tungavailoa Amosa, Drew White, and Kyle Hamilton. But that's not – there are other seniors too. And you and I were talking before going on the air, just there's some guys that have really, I think, exceeded expectations in potentially their last year at Notre Dame, or at least seniors.
Exactly. And I hope these 3 all come back. It'd be awesome. The 3 that aren't captains that I just thought of instantly was Beau Bauer. I mean, Beau Bauer, I keep going back to his, I call it return on investment, meaning how many times does this guy make a play when he's on the field?
Yeah.
And it's just chart his plays and chart his production out of those plays. He's got to be up there in the top 3 on the defense when it just comes to plays per, production out there. He's been outstanding. Justin Adamiola, number 9. When he's on what's crazy is when he's on, the first thing I thought about was I would love to see more of him and Foskey together, because they remind me of the old Corey Minor, Bertrand Berry on the edges. Those 2 guys look like those
like single-digit jersey
the
numbers.
Old Notre Dame, back in 95, 96.
Yeah.
Some great-looking outside linebackers. But he has played more football this year than ever and playing his tail off. Mm-hmm. And then the last one, the senior that no one really thought about too much was DJ Brown.
Yep.
And DJ Brown is since inserted. He's basically, after this game and the Stanford game, it's going to be 6 games without Kyle Hamilton. I count the 6th SC as because Hamilton got hurt in that second series. Mm-hmm. So you're basically going 6 games without, an NFL top 5 draft pick. And DJ Brown has just come in, has gotten better, playing with a lot of confidence. You just see it when you see number 2 out there, the confidence he's playing. So those 3 seniors have an extra year. I hope they all come back and they obviously could be captains next year, type of personalities and the level of play that they've done this year for Notre Dame.
Yeah, actually, I just put out a story tonight on blueandgold.com. It's just a list of where current Notre Dame players are on the various mock draft lists and big boards. And to your point, Kyle Hamilton, he's almost unanimously either number one or
Yeah.
number two on people's big boards. I mean, he'll probably be a top 5 to 10 pick just on needs,
Mhm.
but there's a lot of folks that think that he's the best player in the draft. Seems like people are deciding between him and the defensive end, Kevon Thibodeau at Oregon. Another senior that's super popular, Kurt Hinish. Just what are you going to remember about him?
Well, number one, he is just, I mean, he's grit. You know, Coach Kelly talks about grit all the time. It's this guy. The one, he's a nose guard, so you kind of get lost in the shuffle sometimes of trying to find what 41's doing. But number one, I mean, he's a pit bull. He
Mm-hmm.
really is. He's a stud. He is all over the place. His physical nature, the way he plays. I remember him at Georgia, out there in Athens, Georgia, just blowing people backfield. But the one thing, when I think of Kurt Hinish, which is funny, it's not even a play. You and I were talking about this, and you were at the Virginia Tech game
Yep.
when when Enter Sandman's going and the place is rocking and it's unbelievable atmosphere. You got Notre Dame's running out of the end zone, and there's a lot of videos on YouTube, and there's one great one way up high on the stadium, and you see Notre Dame running out, the Irish banners going, and here's this one figure floating off to midfield, just hyped up, going energy, pointing at Virginia Tech, saying, I'm here. Notre Dame's ready to play. I'm going to lead this group. And it's number 41. And you're like, Kurt Hinish in 2018, sprinting the midfield, ready to do battle and taunting Va Tech. That, when I think of Kurt Hinish, that's what I think about now.
Yeah,
I love it.
He looked like he was ready to run through a brick wall.
Yes.
That was awesome. I saw that video just the other day as well, just kind of looking back at stuff. It's time for predictions. Notre Dame is 9-1, Georgia Tech 3-7. I think they might be a little bit better than that, but I don't know. What do you think?
Well, the first thing you look at is when you look at the scores is this Virginia Tech team a little bit of 2016 Notre Dame? I mean, look at their
Georgia
scores.
Tech, sorry.
Yeah, Georgia Tech, exactly. Look at their scores. They're all one score.
Yep.
There's so many games. In breaking down, getting ready for Virginia, I watched the entire Georgia Tech game because they were going to be back to back. And Georgia Tech, they have 2 interceptions in the end zone, or they're possibly up by 10 at halftime.
Yeah.
And then rally, and they get a couple onside kicks and rally and make that a 1 touchdown game. But so many of their games have ebbed and flow and whatnot. They have some amazing athletic kids. They do. Their running back, like Coach Kelly says, is bar none legit. He's one of the premier ones in America. So they have athletes, but they're young. They have a lot of freshmen, COVID freshmen, true freshmen, redshirt freshmen, a ton of sophomores are playing. So they are a really young group, and they just haven't been able to finish games. So when it comes to predictions, a couple things I look at is, number one, Notre Dame's offense has to show up. They do. They have to show up. It's senior day. Defense always is going to play its tail off and run around. Offense needs to show up. And Georgia Tech is going to give you stuff. Georgia Tech on defense, 14 and a half yards per catch. Every time someone catches the ball, they're getting nearly 15 yards. Mm-hmm. Their secondary is giving up nearly 275 yards a game.
Yeah.
And on third down D, they're 45% plus. So Notre Dame needs to come out here, dominate on offense. Historically, we were talking on the board earlier. I posted one of the infamous plays from the 1991 senior day against Tennessee. Notre Dame's had some meltdowns in the past on senior day. I think the worst one is everyone remembers BC in 93. So,
yeah.
One of my favorite ones, quote unquote, is the snow game, the snow game where
in 92,
Manti Te'o, the snowball,
the snowball game,
where Manti Te'o and all the recruits are getting pelted by snowballs, and the worst team to ever beat a Notre Dame team, Syracuse in 08, beats Notre Dame. But you know what? Since Brian Kelly's been there, they're playing good football, especially the 2.0 period. These last 4 years, the last 3 years on senior day, they've scored over 40 points. So, my prediction, I've just tallied up the last 4 senior games. It's 38-15. I'm going to go 38-15 Notre Dame.
Okay. Well, for my prediction, I have Notre Dame 47-16. I think Notre Dame's offense is going to finally have I mentioned my summary that's going to be up on blueandgold.com tomorrow. That I feel like they're going to have that like sort of day where they finally got everything off their chest and they just execute everything and it just all comes together. I just feel like they're due for one of those days. And Georgia Tech is getting better. They had such a huge overhaul with their program, right? I mean, they were going
Yes.
option, and people think like, oh, new coach, your players are in there 2 to 3 years down the road, but you gotta first start showing signs and then you start recruiting well. It's more than just a 2 to 3 year project. It's 5 or 6, and
Yeah.
so they are recruiting better. They're on pace of having another top 25 class this year. That would be 2 of the last 3 years. Georgia Tech had not had a top 25 class prior to this period since 2007. So you could,
Wow.
yeah, it's been a long time since they've really been recruited at any sort of decent level. But I just think that Jahmyr Gibbs is awesome. I'm just not sure, especially if Jeff Sims doesn't play. If they've got anyone else, that's awesome. And Notre Dame's got better players.
Well, just saying that, one of the, just quick things, I think when Jeff Collins came aboard, I think I was reading, there's 15 running backs on the roster.
Yeah.
So he's coming aboard. I have 15 running backs.
Yeah.
How are you going to filter all of those guys out over the next couple of years in recruiting when you're a, shotgun one back spread offense? So that's an interesting stat. And, he's been working his tail off the last 3 years. They've been close this year. They have been close in many, many games. So, But I'm with you. I think Notre Dame, it's offense. I think defense has been playing its tail off. Coach Freeman's really got those guys doing a lot of good things and just the energy they play with. So offense, Jack Cohn needs to come out and they need to come out and score. And real quick, Notre Dame's only scored 35 first quarter points this year.
Yeah.
So they need to really step it up in the first quarter and not let Georgia Tech hang around.
All right, Tim, we always appreciate your time. To our viewers, please hit like on this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, check out our newsletter, our free newsletter, which you should sign up for on blueandgold.com. Make sure you do that. And I'll see you much earlier in the evening than we're used to, 2:30 start. So that'll be good on Saturday, just a couple days. Notre Dame 9-1, looking to go 10-1 against Georgia Tech. See you, everyone.
You got it.